Like, I feel like we do get horror comedies often, but few and far are done, this well.
The longer this goes, the more twisted it gets. Every weapon he's using is straight off a Thanksgiving table.
Drive-by movies, you're watching
Fresh Releases.
My name's Blaze.
My name is James.
And this week we're talking Eli Roth's brand new feature film, Thanksgiving.
Maybe Christmas time, but we're taking it back to Thanksgiving because after a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving-inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the infamous holiday. So this is the long-awaited movie. I forgot what year it was, but I believe we were maybe 19 or 20. We saw like a 10:30 screening of Grindhouse in theaters, and it was just you and I, a couple other friends, and we just had a blast. I think that was the first Tarantino movie I'd ever seen in a theater, and probably only like the second or maybe even third Tarantino movie I'd ever seen. But within it, one of the highlights was the fake trailers. That's what we couldn't stop talking about for a long time. As much as Planet Terror and Death Proof were fun, the trailers stuck out the most to us, and there was one specifically I always thought, like, hopefully that becomes a movie someday. And here we are, Thanksgiving. Blaze, did it live up to the hype?
Yeah, honestly, this movie, I would say, I had that question too. I'm like, is this going to live up to the hype? I think in an alternate universe, that original Thanksgiving trailer comes out and that movie comes out, but this is, our current timeline, and we got an alternate take on the Thanksgiving trailer. This movie has moments from that original film. It almost feels like it's inspired by the original trailer. I mean, obviously we know it's all created by the same people, but it's not the same movie, obviously, with, that shitty like film grain and, looks like it's made in the 70s. I think they had aspects of that in this film where they tried, to make it similar. But they did their own thing. They made it more of like a 2000s era or late 90s slasher. It definitely feels like an homage to Scream and a lot of those other fun slasher movies. And I felt like this film really balanced, the comedic elements, but also, those slasher and creepy elements with, of course, what we saw in the original Thanksgiving trailer was that twisted, gore type moment. So I thought this film actually really was effective, and I'm looking forward to more. But James, what did you think of this film?
Yeah, I absolutely had a blast and 100% agree. It definitely lived up to the hype for me. I definitely miss like kind of it definitely has the B movie elements with the gore kills, but for the most part, it's a pretty well done, takes itself pretty serious movie. Not over the top serious, but it's not done over the top B movie with the exception of just some of the like over the top kills, I guess you could say. But the movie's very funny, but of course it's all pretty much intentional and stuff too, but it balances it very well. And I really did enjoy the kind of, it's a better Scream movie than the last two Scream movies we've seen, honestly, over the last 2 years. So that was fun. Like I couldn't guess who done it. Like I know some people are like, oh, I knew who the killer was. I figured it out right away. Like, good for you. I was like on pins and needles trying to figure out who it was. I guess overall my main complaint though with the movie is though it just didn't stick the landing for me. It felt a little rushed with the reveal of the killer, everything kind of being wrapped up very quickly because there's a lot of characters. I was like, what happened to this character? What happened to this character? And then they all kind of just show up like, well, I guess it wasn't you. Well, I guess it wasn't you. Like, other than that though, like that doesn't fault the movie by any means though, just because it's such a fun wild ride, perfectly paced, never overstays its welcome, and the gore, like you're always craving more, but Eli Roth does deliver with it. I know back when this the Thanksgiving fake trailer came out, like a lot of people would say Eli Roth was like their favorite horror director, and I had never seen the Hostel films. I think I had seen Cabin Fever, but I just never understood it, but I always appreciated how much he loves horror. And this is like the first Eli Roth movie where I just like I get it. He knows what he's doing. I've never hated any of his projects, but like this is the first one that I actually genuinely love. And I know Thanksgiving 2 was just announced this week, so I'm excited on that already.
Definitely. I understand what you're saying there with like you appreciate his respect for the genre, but like, is he, like his movies didn't always maybe necessarily hit for you. And I think a lot of that has to do maybe with like the element of like gore in his movies. I think Hostel, it's definitely there. I mean, if you haven't seen the movie, you're like anticipating the worst. Once you see the movie, it's there, but I feel like it was dialed back from my imagination. But throughout the rest of his career, it seems like, he made a lot of films that had like explicit gore and stuff. And I feel like this is the film that I think it was the most toned down. And I think it was basically made it the most approachable and most accessible, even for fans of horror. You know what I'm saying? Like it just makes it more like an approachable movie. Sometimes gore is like, can be super off-putting, of course, but if it's done with like some emotional charge here and there, and it's not just done for the sake of gore, like something like Terrifier 2, then it can be appreciated if it's tied into the narrative, tied into the story, and they definitely do that here. There's definitely scenes in that original trailer that they could have gone there in this movie, and they definitely chose not to, which I appreciated, because in the back of my mind the whole time I'm watching it, like, oh god, I really hope I don't see that scene or see any variations of that scene. But it's all done fairly tastefully. I mean, of course, if you don't know anything going into this movie, there's going to be elements that are not tasteful for you, but if you've seen that original trailer, you've probably seen the worst.
Right, yeah, like the trampoline scene was definitely like a little more hardcore in the fake trailer. And I appreciate that they did something different to kind of surprise the audience within that sequence, within the theatrical cut version for this feature-length movie. I guess the one scene I always wondered, always wanted the logic of, I was like, what was the point over this scene in the fake trailer when the killer is like, thrusting into the turkey with the human head on it? I guess I would have loved to have seen the context of that within the fake trailer within this full-length movie, but I guarantee like someone told Eli Roth, or even Eli Roth probably knew not to throw that within the movie. But I always cracked up dying laughing that scene within the fake trailer.
Yeah, that's definitely the most wild moment from that original trailer, of course. And it's so like done kind of like quickly and like abruptly, where it's like, oh my God, what was that? But of course they didn't include that in the movie, which I'm glad for, because the context wouldn't have really been there in terms of like, it would just been like, oh, remember this from the trailer. It really wouldn't have been there like emotionally and, invested in the story. I feel like there was no real room for that. But yeah, like I just liked kind of the way that this was more of like that horror comedy than originally. The trailer is just like a funny B movie, and this felt like it was, a really fun horror comedy, balls to the wall. Like this is a really entertaining watch, and that was kind of one of the things I liked. Like I feel like we do get horror comedies often, but few and far are done, this well.
Yeah, 100% exactly. And I was not impressed with the trailer when it first came out. I was like, is this just a little too late? Like, why are we getting this now so many years later when like it's not even like an anniversary of Grindhouse and stuff too. But blew my expectations out of the water, which I'm very excited to see. And I love being proved wrong. And like, awesome job, Sony, for giving Eli Roth money to do this movie, because I'm very surprised it came out this way and worked out so well, because I enjoyed it. Highly recommend seeing it with the audience if you still can. I know we're in the holiday season, but still playing in theaters and definitely worth a watch. So great way to help support the show. Watch the movie if you haven't seen it already, because you're going to have a blast. Come back here, leave a comment, letting us know what you thought about the movie.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
And speaking of updates, be sure to catch all our social media links down below. We got Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and we also got our own personal Letterboxd accounts. That'll conclude this week's episode. Tune in next week for a brand new video.